Hey everybody, so welcome back to another What Sold video. As you can see, we're starting again with Poshmark. The sales, the BOLO brand, the interesting things that you saw in my thumbnail and then I hinted at in my title, we are going to get to those. Those were sales on eBay, but I did want to talk about Poshmark first. And the reason I wanted to do that again was to update you on what I talked about just about a month ago. We talked about the software, the app I've been using on my phone called Prime Lister, and specifically the Poshmark automation tools that it has. Now, Prime Lister does a lot more than just Poshmark automation, so if you ever want to poke around and see what it is they offer, but this is specifically what I've been using. And so I had mentioned in that last video, I'll just give you a brief review in case you didn't see that video, but I had been looking for some software that would help me to share my items on Poshmark and to help automate the sharing and help automate a lot of the social interaction type things that Poshmark really wants you to do. I also make a lot of sales on Poshmark by sending offers to people who like the items in the app. And so I have it automated, and the software does that too. So because it's an app on my phone, it's a cloud-based software. So it can be running all the time. I don't have to have my computer turned on or anything like that. I just set it up on my phone, set it once and forget it. Now I did I read somewhere another Prime Lister user had mentioned that what they like to do is when they set up their sharing schedule on their app. Let me see if I can. Sorry, I was just looking at activity, not at how I could actually change things. Okay, so I'm going to take a screenshot of this and put a picture up so you can see it. But you can adjust the number of hours or which hours that you're sharing your listing, so you could have it go quiet overnight or different things like that. So they suggested changing up the hours and the times that you're sharing, once a week or something like that, just to kind of make it different, and you can kind of play around with what seems to be working for getting better results. So anyway, I've done that once, but I'm basically sharing my listings. I did set it up this time a while back to do the community sharing, so you're sharing other people's items as well. I do offers to likers. I share to the parties that Poshmark holds throughout the day. If someone shares my item, I share 3 of theirs. If someone follows me, I follow them back. Now, all of that is being done automatically. There are a few other features that I don't necessarily use. There are things that are when you're trying to become a Poshmark ambassador, a Posh ambassador, which is kind of overrated in my opinion. There are certain things that you need to achieve in order to reach that status. And so you can set Prime Lister to do that for you. Anyway, so I just wanted to say that I've been perfectly happy with it. I mentioned in that first video that it pairs really well when you're adding new items to your Poshmark closet, right? So it's also great if you're sharing the stuff you already have listed and everything. But I think for real success on Poshmark, like I said in that first video, is that you want to be adding fresh listings or delisting, relisting, which Prime Lister does that as well. And just, over the past month, as I've used it more, I've noticed that the times where I have been able to add things that I think will sell on Poshmark, then there is that uptick of activity, and then I get an uptick in sales as well. But what I just love about the fact, this type of automation, I love the fact that I don't have to think about it. I just, all of a sudden I'll get a notification that someone accepted my offer, and my offer is just set up, and I can go about my day and things are happening. So anyway, I wanted to update you guys on that, just let you know that I'm still happy with it. Still working really well for me. I really don't mess with it too much. And so again, I will have a link, an affiliate link, of course, down in my description. If you guys want to try it out, you can try it out for 7 days for free. You won't have to put a credit card in or anything like that. And then you can, if you sign up through my link, you'll get 30% off your first month as well. So if anybody out there has tried it, let me know what you thought of it or what you think of it. And if it's working for you, you can leave a comment down below. So, but let's go ahead and talk about our Poshmark sales and see what sold as a result of these offers that have been sent out. Okay, so I think the first thing that sold here is our last Starbucks Idaho Been There mug that we had picked up on our road trip. This one was one of mine. My son had already sold off his, and I just went ahead and took a $23 offer on that one. Then we sold this belt. It was bison leather. The brand is probably the reason I picked it up. I didn't necessarily recognize the brand as TB Phelps. Didn't ring a bell or anything, but it was in good shape and it was the bison leather, so I went ahead and picked it up, and it sold for $30. Then a small little sale, Mary Kay. I think I picked these up at the bins, our clearance store that we have here, a while back, and just kind of took a chance on them. They're Mary Kay little lip glosses, and I took a $9 offer on that. These I remember definitely being also from our clearance store here in town before they changed locations. And this set of picture frames are by Rachel Zoe. If you look at them, let's see, I don't know if it'll show in any of the pictures, but yeah, maybe I took that off. But anyway, it had like a TJ Maxx sticker or something like that on there. So it was just a set of picture frames. You know, it looks like they've been used. The pictures that come with a picture frame were missing out of there. So for whatever reason, someone was done with them and moved them on. They were kind of heavy duty, and they were that dimpled gold color. But I don't know. We got them at the bins, you know, at the clearance store, and I thought, you know what, somebody's going to want these. And so they sold on Poshmark for $45. I was super happy about that. Then we had a day where we sold like a couple vintage hats on Poshmark out of nowhere. This one sold for $26. It was from 1990, featuring the NFL American Bowl. And then right after that, we sold this American Bowling Congress from Reno, a 1984 national tournament, it looks like. So anyway, those two sold. That one sold for $16. And then on Posh, we had these Manzella Morgan black insulated gloves. They were women's down-filled like winter gloves, sold for $19. And then you gotta love spring this time of year. You go from selling winter gloves to swim trunks. The brand was Zoot, and I think Mr. Pish Posh picked these up. They were a swim jammer, but bike shorts, so kind of like a triathlon type of situation, and those sold for $26. And again, I think this was one of those situations where we ended and relisted both on eBay and Poshmark. And, you know, sometimes making a fresh listing is definitely what will get new eyes on your products. We talked about that in last week's What Sold video. So let's pop over to see what sold on eBay. And we're starting off with this peanut butter mixer crank that it was just kind of a fun little sale. I saw it at the thrift store. It was new with package. The card it was on was pretty beat up, but I took a quick look at comps, and it wasn't super high money. I could see the solds were between $20 and $24, but I saw that they were selling really consistently, and so I went ahead and picked that up, and it did. It sold within a few days for $22.99. Then a Mr. Pish Posh item. This one actually made our week worth it. It was actually what saved us on some of the sales were a little slow and on the lower side. But Mr. Pish Posh sold a tool for $489.99. It was a tool, it has to do with cabinet making or making shelves. And he had bought it new, but then never used it. And so he kind of sold it as a new open box kind of situation. It's called a hot air edge bander, and it sold, like I said, for $489.99. Then we sold this shirt by Patagonia. It's kind of like a puckered shirt, like a hiking shirt. Anyway, we took a $15 offer. It went internationally. I think we did get good feedback on this one. Then we sold these candle holders, candlesticks. They were brass and wood, and honestly, they took a little longer to sell than I expected, but they finally sold for $28.99. Unfortunately, this set of steak knives went missing in the mail. We sold them for $27.50, and we got messaged by the buyer that they made it to a certain point in the country, and then every day it was updating, just saying it was arriving late. And so we just said that that we see that they're just kind of sitting there or they're somewhere, but no new information was being given. We said we'd keep an eye on it. And then I checked it again, on the next day, Monday, or after the weekend, and I looked at it and it still hadn't updated. And so I was just thinking about it when all of a sudden they opened a claim for item not received. And they were like, yeah, it's not moving. I don't know what to do about it. And so I just went ahead and refunded. They did message and say they'd be willing to pay for it. Pay for the knives if they ever show up. So we'll see what happens on that. I'm not holding my breath. But anyway, $27.50. And somewhere in the middle of nowhere, missing. Okay, so this was a fun sale. This was a Vogue pattern counter book. So these books are kind of like catalogs, but they'd be on the counters at sewing shops or Joann Fabrics or, just different places like that. And this was not from that long ago. It's from 2015. Now, pattern books, especially Vogue pattern books, if you can get vintage ones, that is very good money. That is high dollars, hundreds of dollars. But this one was from 2015, and the reason I picked it up is because we were on a road trip, and we were at a yard sale with our friends, and this was on the free pile. So go figure. And we grabbed that and sold it for $50. Then, okay, so this little brass bowl, very interesting looking. It was Italian, and this goes back to our honey hole of last year, that ongoing estate sale, and she had such interesting things. Now, we were surprised when you look up this brand, Casa Grande Borgo Trento, whatever that means. It had pretty good comps for bigger pieces. This was just a pretty small bowl. It was 6 inches. Like we put in the title, you could put a plant in it. You could put, plant or pot. Okay. He's saying like a plant pot. I'm like a pot holder. Okay. Anyway, it has some green in it, so I'm wondering if that's what somebody had used it for. They had put a little, used it as like a plant pot kind of thing. Anywho, it sold for $30. So we had it priced fairly high. Not a ton of engagement or interest in it, but it finally sold for $30, and we were happy about that. The next thing that sold was the set of 6 cheese spreaders, these little condiment knives. I think the white was it's just plastic, and they were made in France. Whenever I see little boxes like this at yard sales or estate sales, I always pop them open to see what's inside. There's, a lot of times they're little sets of knives or pastry forks or things like that, so I always double check. And they ended up selling for $25, so works for me. Then I had some flatware sales. So this listing, this is a meat fork in the patterned satin Normandy by Oneida. And then the next listing was the same buyer. They also bought the sugar spoon and the butter knife. And the total for the two listings was $25.18. Okay, so now we've gotten to this little BOLO that I wanted to let you guys know about. Now, it's a brand that I had not heard of, and I'm going to change isn't it cute though? Okay. I'm going to go to the little label so you can see it. It says Young Kokuyo, made in Japan, Kokuyo Company Limited. Okay, so here's the story. I was at a thrift store, and I saw this, and I saw some other pieces, and I thought, that looks so... I was not surprised that it was made in Japan. And I was like, that looks so like Sanrio. I kind of expected maybe it was a Hello Kitty. Those the first things that kind of popped in my head when I first looked at it. So when I flipped it over and I found that sticker, I did a quick look on my phone and nothing was coming up. And so I'm I felt like I was going to have to research. I did Google Lens right at the store. Nothing was coming up besides other stuff that just looked like a cute little bear. So I went home. I left it all there. It was this little set, this sugar bowl or whatever was $5. I probably should have just bought it. It was $5, and the other pieces, were in little groupings for $5 as well. But I went home, and then, later that night, I'm I should research. So the only thing I could come across is I'll put up a picture here, was a plate with this same character, Lou Bear. And he, it kind of is a similar look. It's a plate on the bear is on the edge of the plate. It's kind of like he's tucked into bed. And so he, it was so popular, there was little threads in different places, Reddit or places like that, where people were commissioning. They wanted ceramics artists to make the plate for them. So on eBay, the only thing in sales were someone had remade the plate in, because they were a ceramics artist. So they made one and they were selling, and they put it right in their title, dupe, for $175. And so I see all this and I'm well, this character must be something people know about, right? So I'm I gotta go back. So I went back to the thrift store the next day with my son, and all the pieces were still there. And so I bought everything. And I was still I went on Worth Point, I went on Google. There's just not that much out there, except that plate comes up once in a while. Someone found one at a thrift store, the original, And so I was all right, well, I don't even know what to price this stuff at, because the sugar bowl is not anywhere on the internet. So I decided to auction it with a starting bid of $100, because I was either no one knows about this or a bunch of people are waiting for this stuff to be listed. So I did it for $99. I got a couple bids right away. And it ended at $103.50. So because there was no big bidding war, I decided to list the other pieces just as buy it nows. So I'll show you what that is. I'm using a little creative license that the next few items did not sell in the same week, which is that last week in February. They sold a little bit later, but I wanted to group them all together so we could talk about them all at once. So that sold for $103.50. Super pleased with that. Then there was this little creamer milk jug with that same bear character. And I just listed him for $60. And then I had a saucer that said Lou Bear. It had quite a bit of crazing and like a little mark on his forehead, but I didn't have the cup or anything like that. So just the saucer, I listed that for $40. The same buyer as the other buyer, same buyer who bought the sugar bowl, bought both of these like within a few hours of me listing them. And this totaled about $100 for these two pieces. And so then the only thing I had left, I went ahead and listed this after those had sold. I had this little set, which is not Lou Bear. It's like a little bunny. But, what did it say on the back of the name? Not Lou Bear, but Honey Mill or something like that is the name that's written on there. It had this little spoon with a duck on it. But it also had the sticker on the bottom of the plate. So it's not like a cup and saucer, it's a cup and plate and spoon. But this one was neat. It had a date on it, 1984. So Young Kokuyo. Now, when you look at this brand now, if you Google it, it's like a stationery company, like a serious stationery company, like Staples or something. So I think it just kind of, you know, how Hallmark even was like stationery or whatever and had little cutesy things. And then it, you know, so I wonder if it started out as this like kind of cutesy stuff and then just transformed into a more serious like office supply company or something like that. If any of you have ever heard of Young Kokuyo, let me know in the comments down below. It was $150 is what I listed it at, and I did take an offer for $125 because it was this, and it was the same buyer. So the same buyer in Australia bought all 4 listings that I had. And so what is that? Oh, like $300 and some dollars for this Young Kokuyo stuff. So anyway, I thought I would throw it out there. Don't forget to look for the plate. Super cute. There's a big demand for that plate. And anyway, I just thought that was super fun. It's one of those little, you know, things in passing that makes reselling so interesting. Okay, so then over to some boring but profitable stuff. No, I'm just kidding. This was a Mr. Pish Posh cleaning out the garage type thing. It's just a quick set handle and all the hardware and all that kind of thing. This one is definitely boring, but this North Face, I think this just sold for like $12 or something like that. Kind of in that time period of just trying to move the beanies on, even though people are still wearing them. Then this one, oh, let me find the price on this one. I lost my page on my phone. This is closet hardware. It's a rack that you pull out for pants. I can show you the picture. It's a pant organizer. And we didn't sell it for $170, but we sold it for, suspense is killing me, $154. So that was nice. And another kind of big item out of the garage. And then it turns out that once I got feedback on this sale, I realized that the buyer was a viewer. So thank you very much, Elizabeth. And these sneakers, vintage sneakers, sold for $20. They were made in Japan, and I just thought they were super cute. So I hope you enjoy them. And then we sold some Oneida Community Frostfire dinner forks. You've seen this pattern in some of my what solds recently, and then I happened upon some more at the thrift store, so I knew I could do just a quick, you know, copy, sell similar, all that kind of thing, and I got those listed as soon as I could. Then another hat, we're kind of going into the season of more outdoor sun type hats. The brand was Outdoor Research, and that sold for $22.49. And then these spoons, Oneida Community Claret, they're round bowl soup spoons. 4 of them sold for $44.99. Now, that is a nice price for 4 forks. spoons. And these were listed for quite a while though, so they were not not a super quick sale, but still worth it. Sorry, I'm just trying to, I'm not in my usual spot in the house because other people are using that space, so I'm just trying to make do. Okay, so then we've got the rest of the sales are just on Etsy. I didn't have any Ruby Lane sales. They did, it was really quiet, I think, after a sale that they had. And then they were making changes on Ruby Lane that are kind of fun. And so I have had sales. My sales have picked up again, but after this week. So this week I had no sales that week on Ruby Lane, but I've had some pretty good sales since then. And I'll share those with you soon. And I can share the changes that Ruby Lane made if anybody's interested as well. So this was something sold in the Mr. Pish Posh store. He picked this up. I think he found it at Goodwill or someplace like that. We were doing a thrift trip together. Anyway, he sold it for $90. It's this, like a sundial. They call it when I Googled it, it's an armillary sphere. Anyway, very cool looking. Probably from like the 90s or 2000s or something. It was San Pacific International. And not too many others listed or comps or anything. So I think the $89.99 is definitely like an Etsy price that you could get. That's where we started, like on eBay, and we would send offers and things. But someone paid $89.99 on Etsy. Then this mug took way too long to sell. I have had this mug forever, listed at all different times. I'm like, come on, it's got sneakers. The brand is Pottery Craft, which people know, like it's a novelty mug. Like normally this type of mug would sell a lot quicker. So we were glad for it to finally go away. $28.99. Then this bowl set, like a salad bowl with smaller individual bowls, didn't have a sticker, but similar to ones by Goodwood. It's like solid teak. And we just got $28.99 for it. You'll see, even though I have Pish Posh Kitchen now, we're not taking the time to move like the kitchen and the mugs and all that stuff off of other sites and put them in there. Not yet. Like we've got plenty of other things to list. And so things can just kind of stay where they are for the moment. And if we ever feel the need to move stuff over, we will. Just to make things make sense, right? So speaking of Pish Posh Kitchen, this was a sale I had on that site. And this had been listed forever. Well, not that long, maybe like a year. On eBay, I found it at Goodwill for 99 cents. And it's just the dip bowl to a chip and dip set by Vendoo. And the coloring is called Bermuda Twist, the green and the orange. So I'm like, somebody is going to want a replacement to their chip and dip eventually, but it had just been sitting there on eBay, not doing nothing. And then I put it in I cross-posted it into Etsy when I opened up Pish Posh Kitchen again, and it sold fairly quickly for $24. And then we're going to talk patterns, because that's how I usually end my what sold videos. This might look familiar. I said I had two of these, so this Vogue 50s style or 60s style outfit sold for $22. Then this Vogue skirt pattern sold for $12. Again, Y2K. I have a bunch of Vogue from that era, 90s and Y2K. This is a line of Vogue patterns called the Vogue Woman, and this was a wrap dress. Very attractive, very pretty dress in sizes 20 through 24. And that sold for $16. And then I did get this at our little bin store, our clearance store. Now, I shouldn't even say bins because it's mostly shelves and conveyor belts. So there's a few bins there, but anyway, the clearance store in its new location, there was a few patterns sitting on the shelf, and this was one of them. So I had grabbed that, and it sold for $14. pretty quickly, I might add. And then this McCall's shirt pattern, I think it was unisex. So the shirt, it's a button shirt for either men or women. And that sold for $14. This was a nice pattern sale. Always love it when I can sell a pattern for close to $40. So $39 for this men's Renaissance sewing pattern. I've sold quite a few times over the years. And in general, I should just add that in general, a lot of costume patterns for men, there's less of them. A lot of times, not every time, but a lot of times you can get higher prices. I get excited when I see, especially Renaissance costumes or different costumes for men. It usually works out, to be a good flip. Then this Butterick pattern was very 70s, very boho, kind of tunic top. That one sold for $15. And the last pattern that sold was also $15. It was a McCall's poncho pattern. And yeah, that was it. So anyway, that is it for the what sold for this week. And I will hopefully have something else for you this weekend. And I guess that's all I have to say. You have to leave me the comments down below, like we've talked about many, many times, about how your listing is going, or you're keeping up with your motivation. Do you do good listing in the spring? I know a lot of people sometimes start to get busy outside. They get busy with their gardening, and I don't know. Maybe it's too early for that. I guess it's just March. But I know the weather is different in different parts of the country. So let me know how your reselling life and world is going in the comments down below, and I will talk to you later.